We don't want to be an exclusive club. You know, to be a member of OSAP isn't a real expensive opportunity. We make it very reasonable because, again, we don't want to be exclusive. We want that message out there to all dental professionals. We're looking at every step of that process when a patient comes into the office and making sure that those practices understand all the areas that they need to be looking at. So we're constantly communicating with all of those associations, and our members are writing in their journals and in their newsletters. We become the go-to.
Get ready for your unofficial dental hygiene podcast. These are the tales of two hygienists, one East Coast RDH and one West Coast hygienist. Listen as they tackle the profession of dental hygiene with humor and enthusiasm. Now, please join Michelle Strange and Andrew Johnston as they tell you a tale of two hygienists.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists. This is episode number 192. My name is Andrew.
And this is Michelle.
Hooray.
I swear I think I'm losing my voice from this past show.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was a loud conference floor, it felt like. It was a vast conference floor, and you did a lot of talking to a lot of people.
As per usual. So we are just coming back from ADA and FDI. That was in San Francisco. So a lot of late nights, talking dentistry. It's fabulous.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was good. I think that I learned a lot about FDI at this conference. Shout out to our friend Rachel, who now works for FDI and messaged us so we can meet her. So that was cool. She's been kind of all over the world, but I think that she's back in the UK now. So shout out to her and hello. And thank you, Sarah, for connecting us and telling us to go find her.
I love these global dental meetings. It just really helps with a perspective. And, you know, I think coming from the International Dental Hygiene Conference and then having this just like, a week and a half, 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
It was just, you know, it kind of as a culmination of ideas and theories that I've been really kind of supporting each other. And now I'm just like full on, like, our profession needs to progress and change. And the U.S., you need to get on board.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting because I always feel like the U.S. has been like a global leader in so many things. But every time we come back to dentistry, we're always like, oh, yeah. I mean, your thing on flossing versus interdental cleaning is like so far behind. The prevention versus restorative models are so far behind. So, yeah, it's just very interesting to like see it in a different light because we're so as clinicians, we kind of go into our office, we do our thing, and then like we go home, and then we just, even if we do our local component meetings or if we do state or like regional meetings, like we don't see it to the same degree. So yeah, it's been very interesting now that we're on the international meetings that we're seeing stuff.
Yep. And we got to hang out with Michelle Lee from OSAP, who will be on this podcast today. I hope everybody's enjoying this Infection Control Awareness Month. I've definitely been nerding out on this quite a bit. I've been nerding out on infection control since I went to OSAP in, I think it was January. And thanks to Emily Bogey for telling me about that.
She's such a nerd. That Emily Bogey, just the biggest nerd of all time. But yeah, she's fantastic. So thank you, Emily.
Yeah. Any fun things coming up for us?
No.
You're
That's
going to
everyone.
Toronto.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I mean, like some personal travel. Allison and I are going to go to Toronto just to kind of do our, every 6 months we try and get away from everyone and just do some fun stuff. Just so happens that we have a lot of dental friends that we're going to actually go see too. So that's kind of interesting, but it's not a conference related thing. And then I think that you and I don't have anything for a little bit. You have AOSH coming up.
I do. Yeah. So if anybody's going to be at AOSH, let me know. That would be great. I'd love to hang out. And then I think you and I are going to do Greater New York. Mm-hmm. And of course, I got all the world's travel for other things. But
and then after that, I mean, start putting some stuff on your calendar for next year, everyone. I know that we're still in September, but you can't be, sometimes you have to plan your PTO or your request your days off or whatever early. Voices of Dentistry is going to be also in January, end of January down in Scottsdale. And then we have Yankee also that will probably attend. The Hinman is also going to be a new one that we're going to be attending for early next year. So, and then Chicago Midwinter is something we always attend. So there's like 4 conferences right at the very beginning of next year. So don't put that off. Make sure you guys are looking ahead.
And I just want to say, I hope everyone weathered Hurricane Dorian pretty well.
Oh, yeah.
That beast of a storm that took out the whole East Coast pretty much.
That Michelle won't find out the extent of the damage for several more days still.
At least 5 to 6 more days, but I have heard my house weathered very well. I'm just happy that this is the first storm I've ever left for, and I'm not going to ever do it again. Let's just be clear. The anxiety of being away is way worse. Way worse.
I don't believe it. We'll find out, though.
Yeah. My one and only in my life that I'll leave for.
Your house is your one and only?
No, the storm. I've never left for a storm before. I'm never leaving again. But we hope everybody weathered well. And we hope everybody enjoys this episode with Michelle Lee from OSAP.
Hey, Michelle.
Yeah.
It's time for the interview.
Oh, but I had something else to say.
We need to let the experts talk now.
Fine.
All right, so this is going to be the first part of our infection control series because it actually coincides with what OSAP is doing. And this is our first guest, who is the director of OSAP, Michelle Lee. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm very excited to have you on. I met you at OSAP Boots on the Ground, right?
Boot camp in January in Atlanta.
Yep. And I was like, this is amazing. I'm an infection control nerd, but God, there's so much to learn.
Yes.
So much to learn. So tell us, what is OSAP and what you're doing with OSAP?
So OSAP stands for the Organization for Safety, Asepsis and Prevention. We are a membership association, nonprofit. We are celebrating our 35th year this year in existence. But our purpose is to provide education on infection control and patient safety. That's our purpose.
I love it.
See, I told you.
Education. Great.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Her 2 favorite things.
I know. It's my favorite things. So a lot of people probably have not heard of OSAP, but they've heard of OSHA. And they confuse probably them a lot.
A lot. Yeah.
Can we break it down?
Yes. So OSHA is a governmental agency, and they set regulations that have to do with infection control and employee safety. And that's a key word there. OSHA is all about employee safety, not about patients. So there's a lot more to infection control than just employee safety, right? Mm-hmm. Yes.
So who's doing the patient?
Well, CDC does set guidelines for anything infection control in the dental office, both employee and patient safety.
But you guys work together.
Yes. Well, CDC is a great partner for us. We work with the CDC Division of Oral Health because they count on us to communicate their guidelines to the global dental community. So we meet with them and we will partner with them on research. We will apply for grants that they have put out there so that we can help them provide the information. We have one of our books that OSAP publishes is the Guide to the Guidelines, the CDC guidelines. This month, it's at the printer right now. We are doing our latest update to that book. So a new edition's coming out this month, which is real exciting.
Guide to the Guidelines. And so OSAP, you said, it's been around for 35 years. Like, how are you guys disseminating that information and all the partnerships with CDC?
With our membership, we have a very active website. So people who are members of OSAP have passwords to get into member-only sections of the website, but yet there is information on that website that anyone can gain access to. Because again, our purpose is our vision, let's just say that our vision is that every dental visit is a safe dental visit. And so we don't want to be an exclusive club. You know, to be a member of OSAP isn't a real expensive opportunity. We make it very reasonable because again, we don't want to be exclusive. We want that message out there to all dental professionals. And there are a lot of dental offices that just don't know what they don't know.
Who do you typically find are the members as far as like job groups? Is it mostly the dentists, the business owners, the office managers?
It is such a unique group of members that we have. We have dentists, we have hygienists, we have assistants. There's a practice membership so that everybody in the practice can be a member. But we also have educators. We have a strong base of educators that are members. These are the people who are professors for dental hygiene and assisting and dental schools that are our members. We have a strong military base of membership. We have corporate members. So the manufacturers and the distributors of all things infection control related are our huge supporters and financial supporters to help us grow this information and provide the education that we do provide to the community.
Have there been any recent initiatives that maybe at my level, just like the office, that you guys have had a hand in for the public or certain topics that you guys are really hitting now this year that haven't been as popular in the past?
Waterline, dental unit waterlines, real important. We're hearing more and more about that in the media with breaches. And so there's been more research and more education on dental unit waterlines. We launched the first ever clinical journal. So the Journal of Dental Infection Control and Safety this past year. And our lead article was OSAP's positioning paper on dental unit waterlines.
That was a good one. I had burnout. The one, I think an article on burnout.
Yes.
And it was really good.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Which I thought that was interesting that you guys were tackling that, because that doesn't seem like it's in the infection control wheelhouse, but
think about it from a safety standpoint.
Absolutely. It made sense. And I think the premise of it was that it's because if you get burned out, you're not as likely to stay informed or practice good protocols. And then the patients, you and the patient are at risk.
Right.
Your office, your team, everybody's at risk, which I thought was fantastic insight for that. So what are some of the things that OSAP, you go to a conference, you can become a member?
Yeah. So our annual conference this past year was in Tucson, Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I thought was fascinating, it's the first time that we've done this. We did a pre-conference mini boot camp, and it was focused on Indian health services. Public health is another big piece of our membership at OSAP. And we provided, because we were in Arizona, so there were a lot of tribal communities that were local, and that's why we wanted to have this mini boot camp for Indian health services. But what we found out, we had people as far away as Alaska, Minneapolis, Minnesota, come in for this boot camp, for that training, and over 200 attendees for the pre-session, which was real exciting. Then, of course, we have the annual conference, which again, we have consultants and speakers, and we have a large contingency from the DSO markets now attending. They want to make sure everything they're doing is in compliance. The other big event that we have each year, and you mentioned it earlier, is our annual boot camp. That is held in January each year, and it's a 3-day intensive foundational training on infection control. We cover all the CDC guidelines, and we have many speakers from the CDC. They're educating, as well as other subject matter experts from across the country. This past year at boot camp, we had attendees from 47 different states and 23 countries.
Whoa. Really?
Isn't that amazing? Yes. Very exciting. We have a large military presence at boot camp, and part of that is boot camp was started because the Air Force came to OSAP several years ago and said, we do this infection control training for our military, and we need help with this and delivering this. So OSAP ended up taking it over, and yet all the armed forces now attend, from Army, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard. They all had representation at this event. And actually, when the event's over, they have a post half day event just where they break off into their separate segments.
Interesting. So is the overseas bases and things like that, are compliant to national regulations?
Yes, federal regulations. Right. Which, in going back to OSHA, OSHA is a federal regulatory agency, and they set the regulations. They set the federal regulations for employee safety. And I think that's part of our confusion out there sometimes, is because I believe it was in 89 or 90 that OSHA set the guidelines or the regulation that every direct care healthcare provider had to have an annual OSHA update that has to do with bloodborne pathogens, right? So every dental office, they know about OSHA because they've had to do those updates year after year after year. It doesn't matter what state you're in, you have to do those updates, right? So a lot of dental professionals think, well, I've had my annual OSHA update. Yeah, we're good on infection control. But that, again, is just focused on employee safety, and it's not going into patient safety.
And we're talking employee safety, like your personal protective equipment.
Yes.
Making sure you get your vaccines,
yes,
the bloodborne pathogen, how to protect yourself from inoculation.
And I know a lot of people have seen the video. That's an OSAP video that's shown in most of the dental schools and dental hygiene schools out there, if saliva were red.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Who hasn't?
I just brought that up the other day because I was trying to explain it for aerosols. And I was like, I wish we had, if a saliva was red, but for an aerosol, like to see the thing. Because I mean,
it could be another. It could be an addition. Video. Yes, it could be a future project for OSAP.
You want to act on that one, Michelle? Is that what you're saying?
I was scarred by that one. I was like, everything's dirty. Don't touch anything.
I'll be the patient in that video, and you can be the clinician.
Yeah,
just putting my hands in your mouth and then like touching the phone.
Never mind. You lost me on that one, Michelle.
But was the bloodborne pathogens based on the HIV/AIDS as far as the bloodborne pathogen requirement so that we weren't cross-contaminating? Because I know the 80s was a time where... Right.
And I think that was the beginning of it. Yes. But, you know, there's a lot of diseases that are transferred through that, right? Not just HIV and AIDS. But I think that's, of course, yes, I'm sure it was one of the driving forces.
And then when we look at patient safety, that's when we talk water lines, right?
Sure.
Water lines and autoclave maintenance and spore testing. And I mean, I'm trying to think of all the other things, but patient eyeglasses for patients.
Yes.
That kind of stuff.
Yes.
And that's CDC.
CDC guidelines, right. Yes.
And we were talking earlier that some CDC guidelines are requirements in some states have adopted the CDC guidelines as requirements. So their dental practices must follow the guidelines. It's not just a recommendation. It is required. It's law.
Written into their legislation.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Not all states, but some states.
And how do we get that list of states that do it as a requirement? Do we just need to investigate our own state board?
Well, yes. Every state board has it listed. I do know that the Danby and the Dell Foundation have done some research. We did some research a couple of years ago. I don't know currently if it's been updated, because it changes all the time.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yes.
So what is Danby and the Dale Foundation?
So Danby is the Dental Assisting National Board, and their foundation partner is the Dale Foundation. They are the leaders in certification and accreditation in dentistry. Most people know them initially from the CDA exam, Certified Dental Assisting, but they do so much more. So we have partnered, OSAP partnered with Danby and the Dell Foundation 4 years ago to create a infection control certificate and certification program. We have launched the certificate program this year. The certification people will be able to sit for the certification in 2020. So we have this joint collaboration with them working on this. It's been quite the journey. A lot of money raised to build this, but we've had a lot of corporate support to make this happen from a lot of the manufacturers and the dental suppliers. There's 2 types of certifications that are coming out. One is for the clinical professional and the dental office. It is the CDIPC, Certified in Dental Infection Prevention and Control. And then there is one for the dental trade industry, which is Dental Industry Specialist in Infection Prevention and Control, DISIPC. So when someone sits for this exam and passes, they'll be able to put those letters after their name.
Oh,
yes. So it is quite the journey to get this. It's not something that you're just going to earn overnight. It means something. So first, you participate in the certificate program, which is the education piece of this. So there are 3 steps to that.
So is that when I attended boot camp?
That's part of the education process. Mm-hmm. Yes. And a lot of this there are parts of this can be done online. But once you finish the education, then you're eligible to sit for the exam.
Okay.
And that will be done at a testing site.
Okay.
Where it's proctored. You go in, show the ID, fingerprints, the whole 9 yards, right?
So you're like taking your boards again.
Yes.
Which gives me so much anxiety to think about. So much anxiety. Okay. So you're doing these educational, like going to the boot camp. You said some online, mm-hmm. and then you can sit for the exam.
Yes.
Do you know how long? I mean, I'm sure if it's self-study, it kind of progresses as you go.
Yeah, it depends. It depends on which steps you take and how long. But I think to totally go through all of the education, you're probably looking at 20 to 25 hours. Again, if boot camp was part of that, mm-hmm. that takes it's a little bit longer.
Yeah, that's okay. And what's the point of it? Like, why would you want to have these letters after your name? Is this if you are trying to be an OSHA compliance manager, or
it takes your level of professionalism up. It provides you more education, makes you more of that subject matter expert. And it depends on what you're doing. If you're in the dental trade industry, and what we know from surveys we've done with the dental trade is that most dental trade professionals believe that dental practices, 80% of dental practices will go to them first with a infection control question. That's a lot of responsibility. And so if someone in the dental trade industry has this certification, they're going to be more respected. It's a value add for their customers, right? On the clinical side, we do see that there are probably going to be a lot more opportunities in infection control in the future. And especially for those people in dental offices that are the designated infection control coordinator. So CDC, that's one of the CDC recommendations, that every practice has a designated infection control coordinator. So this can be a person, it can be an assistant, it can be a dental hygienist. It can be anyone that works in the office. And a lot of times it may just be part of their job responsibility. But what we also know, although it's one of the CDC guidelines, Right now, only about 49% of dental practices have a designated infection control coordinator. That's going to grow. More exposure.
What is there ever the opportunity for someone to be an infection control manager for multiple office? Like, do they
Certainly.
have to be an employee of the office in order to be that office's manager?
Do you mean could they be from a consultant?
Yeah, I'm
Come
wondering,
in.
like, if there was a hygienist that was like, yeah, I am down for this. Infection control is my thing. And she was like or he or she was in let's say, an area, and they wanted to knock out like 6 offices. Can I come
Certainly.
to your complaint?
I'm sure that it would be up to those offices if they wanted to handle it that way. But unless a state says differently, there's no specific regulation against that.
What I love is that, I mean, we can always help people not get out of the op, because that's never our thing. We want you to be happy in the op.
Yes.
But if you are progressing out of it, like, and everybody's like, I don't know what to do. Like, oh, that'd be a pretty
Or you
cool.
pick up part-time.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
And maybe go into the offices as needed, once a month, once a week or something. I don't know what that looks like, but make sure they're doing all their spore testing and gauze isn't sitting on the countertops and people are wearing their safety goggles and all that fun stuff.
Does OSAP ever participate in discussions with legislation at the state level? Like, would you ever come into Washington and be like, hey, we have recommendations that you have people with these credentials be giving your education for this?
OSAP currently does not have any lobbying. It's not been part of our association. There may be members that have participated at the board level and within their own individual states, but it's not an active part of our association.
Are there any infection control agencies or groups that do advocate for that at a bigger level rather than being in an individual level?
Not that the only thing I would think would be some of the state dental associations or national dental associations.
Are you thinking like having somebody there to push and promote like high volume evacuation and
Exactly. So I was just thinking like there are like the board testing agency
Yes.
to have representation at these state meetings.
Yes.
If there was somebody there and be like, look, we are the state boards, the dental boards, the responsibility is to protect the public. Here's a thing that's protecting the public that we wish that you guys would have. And whether it's written into legislation or not, maybe it's just a rule or whatever, but having a higher credentialed person, I feel like that would benefit the public immensely.
I would agree.
Well, we do educate the dental boards on what the education that we do have. And I do know that some dental boards will refer some of their licensees. If there have been a breach, they may send them to OSAP training.
Oh,
So they recognize the value
Yes.
there, for sure.
Yes, I have been told that by some of the different boards. But again, it's a state by state.
meaning a breach, like if somebody complained and they saw that they had
Yes,
done
and they needed
with their,
some extra training.
yeah, they would say, go.
Or need some training.
Especially if only
period.
49% are,
Infection control coordinators.
Yeah.
Yes.
oh, so scary. And so what is the whole message with the safest dental? Is it safe or safest?
Safest dental visits.
And why, what does that look like?
That is OSAP's vision, that every dental visit is a safe dental visit, so that we're protecting the employees, we're protecting the patients, that we're looking at every step of that process when a patient comes into the office, and making sure that those practices understand all the areas that they need to be looking at. You know, I did some consulting for a little while back in my career. And one of the things I found interesting is when I would go into dental practices and talk to them about patient referrals and the new patient visit. And we would do tours of the practice and how do you introduce your practice to a new patient. And I was really surprised when many times we would go through those practices and the team members would just show me what they would normally do. And they walk right by sterilization and they would just say, oh, and that's our sterilization area. And they kept going. Mm-hmm. And it's an area I think that dental offices are missing out on, an opportunity.
Look how I'm keeping you safe.
Absolutely. Don't you think that when that soccer mom comes in for that appointment, this practice, and she's blown away by what the dental hygienist has shared with her that day about what they're doing to keep her and her family safe, they're not going to go out and tell all of their friends, let me tell you about this office. Right?
That's a good point. And I'm thinking even like in hospitals, like they have signs everywhere. Like if someone didn't wash their hands let us know. And you could walk past it and like, we want to know if you didn't feel safe because we want to make sure that you are like opening your kits in front of the person.
Yes.
That putting the eyeglasses on and I think.
And how much of that do you see? I mean, I see it on social media all the time.
God,
you know, there's so many of these dental groups and on Facebook groups, right? They're dental professionals in different areas. And I see it. I see where people are posting, this is my perfect tray setup. And they have everything opened.
Yeah.
But no patient sitting there yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there are people that will respond and say, you know, you're not supposed to have that open yet. And again, back to they don't know what they don't know.
They don't know what they don't know. You're right. God, there's so many other things that they do on the social media. If I read paper up or paper down in the autoclave one more time in my life, I'm just going to have to shut Facebook down because I can't take it any longer. I feel like you have a question.
No, I was just going to make a comment about you being put in Facebook jail, but then it wasn't funny enough, so I didn't bother.
I should be put in Facebook jail.
Like every day. Like the things you say.
I should just be able, it would be a punishment for me to just lurk and like not have a keyboard on my phone. Like I can't actually lay into somebody or something.
I need to follow you on Facebook, apparently.
It's a full-time job.
I always joke that I give myself 3 stupid comments on Facebook. So if somebody...
In what time frame?
Just if I'm in that comment thread.
Okay.
And no one has said anything. So they'll say something like, oh no, it's paper up. And I'm like, someone's going to correct them. Someone's going to get it. And I'll read another one, paper down. And I'm like, somebody's going to do it for me. Someone's going to do it. And there's like paper up, paper down, paper down. I'm like, okay, guys, it's manufacturer's instruction for use for the love of
read
all
the
things
IFU.
Clean, please. Oh, it's all I can do to keep off Facebook sometimes. But so, and I mean, I'm curious too, like, because Facebook is sometimes the keeper of information for a lot of people. And do you guys have social media things or things to access really easily?
Yes. So we do have Facebook and Instagram and Twitter that we are constantly updating daily, providing current information, correct information for our followers. And the other thing that we do that's a member benefit is our info bites.
I get that.
Do you get that every Monday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern time on the dot? It is our digital newsletter, and it will provide the top 3 things or newsworthy events that have happened in the past week that has to do with infection control.
Like press releases. And I honestly forward those on more times than not.
I hear that all the time. Yes. I've been told of all the emails people get, they will open that email every Monday morning.
Yep. I agree. And so I signed up earlier this year and even like last week, I think it was last week, they had the Ebola, something about Ebola on there. And then the week before it was pulmonary lung fibrosis, NIOSH and Western Virginia University are doing a little study. So there's a lot of information in there. And so what if people have questions?
On our website, we have a section called Ask OSAP. And our questions and answers are logged on the website. So if you have a question, you can go in and you can enter that question to see if it's been asked and answered, and you might have your information immediately. If you don't see it, you can submit the question, and we say within 3 business days, you'll have a response, but I'll tell you a lot of times it's within 24 hours. We have a full-time dentist who is a subject matter expert that responds to all of that, and she will quote she'll find the guidelines or the regulations that have to do with it and give you the facts. It's not an opinion. It's not a recommend. It's not, well, we think. It's what the research has said.
Does she need a new best friend? I would love to be.
You would love her. Yes.
Quote me the research.
Yeah.
My favorite thing. We need to maybe put that in our social media too. Like anytime, because I mean, the question could be, is it paper up, paper down? And you'd probably find that on Ask OSAP.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's good stuff. But you guys do not recommend products. You are recommending protocols and procedures, and you're very unbiased.
Right. Yes. We have to be very unbiased with that. We provide continuing education, so you can't promote products either in your courses. But we do have manufacturers, of course, and distributors who are our members and our sponsors. And we rely on their sponsorship and support. That's how we continue to be able to provide the top level education that we provide, is through their help. So we're very appreciative of all of their work.
And is it online CE content?
There is online CE content, but there's also, again, our boot camp and annual conference. And the other thing that we do, a lot of people don't even realize, we'll have certain entities or states that reach out to us, and where they feel like maybe they've had some issues within their state on infection control, or too many questions coming up to their board, and ask us to come in and provide a training. So we've done that several times this year.
And so we're at RDH Under One Roof.
Yes.
And you have a booth.
Yeah.
Are there some common things people are coming up and asking or inquiring about, or something you've said a few times while you're here?
Well, I think for us, people still come up, a lot of dental hygienists and people in the dental office who maybe aren't the subject matter experts out there in infection control, and they come up and they look at us and say, so does your company provide OSHA training? And I'll explain to them that we are a member association and we want them to be members, but a lot of our members are the people that provide the OSHA training. So that's what we get. But what I'll say this year here at this conference that I'm so excited about, it's how many people, when they see that we are providing education on infection control, they get so excited. I never knew there were so many nerds like you, Michelle, that are out there. They are so passionate. And I mean, we've had people sign up to become members right at the booth.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Because they're so excited about this. And they're like, finally. And, can you give me the information to how to talk to the rest of my staff about this? And, my team, my doctors.
I think outside of the thermostat, infection control might be one of the biggest argued things in an office sometimes.
Yes.
Because you do have a lot of people that don't have proper training. Had it a long time ago.
A long time ago, right.
And then, like you said, they get their bloodborne pathogens each year and they think they're set for infection control. And they're not really up to par.
Yes.
Do you feel better about yourself now? You're normal.
That there are people like me.
You're people.
I found my own. Yeah. Actually, when I was at the boot camp, it was so nice. And because there was a lot of the military presence there, I mean, those people, of course, their protocols and procedures are very regimented. And I was like, you do what in your office? And they were asking the most amazing questions. And I was like, that's a thing? I was blown out of the water as far as nerdiness, but they have to be for their military.
Because they're hyper engaged and they want to know, or like, I feel like if you already have this, the workflows in place.
But they have to do all the proper waterline testing
Yes.
and the spore testing, and because I'm assuming, at least what I gathered from the people that I was talking to, is there's so many hands and people deploy and come back and all the things. So you have to have very strict standards and written protocols and guidelines to follow. And so I think a lot of them were talking about like, well, this is where we breach. Maybe this would be the case where maybe there's cross-contamination. And I'm talking like maybe a piece of gauze was left out, like nothing severe. Whereas I'm like, walk into any dental office right down the street and God knows how many breaches and infection control there are. But I was like, you guys are doing
it's great.
Amazing thing.
It's great. And, and the other, another area that a lot of people may not think about with infection control and different challenges is what we have within the mobile dental units.
Ooh, okay.
Think about that. And so think about how challenging it can be for them to make sure they're following, because you have to follow everything that you would in a brick and mortar, right? So OSAP does have very specific training for that. We attended the National Oral Health Conference in April, and 3 of our members did an amazing session on setting up infection control processes for school sealant coordinators.
Oh.
So when they go into, especially the rural areas, and they'll go into these elementary schools to apply sealants and setting all the processes up for the dental hygienists and how they need to do that to make sure everybody is safe. They're safe. Their patients are safe.
The one that I went to was on mission trips.
Yeah.
OSAP. And it was talking about his protocols were like, even waterline safety on these trips, making sure your portable units are getting shocked, and even looking at your products that you're taking. Like, did your toothpaste sit in something outside and get overheated, and things that you just don't think about. Why are the boxes that you traveled with wet on the bottom because they were sitting on the ground? Now are those things? It was just like, I was like, oh my gosh, like things that I have not really considered. But it was really fascinating, and he did a really good job on that too. So it's like a spectrum of education.
Yes.
What other things are maybe some frequently asked questions, especially for like dental hygienists? Do you have anything that maybe we haven't covered?
Of course, there's a lot of questions that are out there in regards to hand pieces, sterilization. Yes, right. So we get those questions all the time. We get the questions about burrs. That's been a hot question. We've had several calls to our office since our annual conference.
Like if they're reusable, or how do you sterilize them?
Yeah. Because the word's getting out there. We had a gentleman from the FDA on one of our panels during our annual conference who shared that there is not one burr that's been approved for more than single use.
Okay, hold on. But we're not talking about rules yet. This is just a recommendation and guideline.
It's FDA. When FDA approves a product.
So now that's an instruction for use.
Yes.
And if you don't follow the instructions, it's like wearing your mask twice.
Interesting.
So can we just really quickly talk about FDA and because that's not something I would have been like, oh, why are they on your panel? Are there any other ones like that? Like
FDA, EPA, Joint Commission.
Can we break those down? Or is that possible? Like FDA is, like you said,
products,
food and drugs. So if they are not putting multiple use on something, then you're breaking guidelines, right?
Absolutely.
I'm sure that goes for healing abutments on implants, which has also been an argument amongst many an oral surgeon, if you can sterilize those and reuse them again. Oh, that's so good. And then EPA,
Environmental Protection Agency.
And then Joint Commission?
Yeah. So a lot of, all of healthcare, medical hospitals, most of them go through JCO standards, right? Joint Commission standards, and which are very, very strict. if there are dental clinics located within those hospital settings under that hospital umbrella, they also have to follow the JCO guidelines, which can still sometimes be confusing because it's not exactly the same as in a hospital.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, so we had a guest from Joint Commission who was lovely and providing great answers and information on how to make those adjustments. Yes.
And OSAP is dentistry only.
Yes.
Is there like a medical counterpart that is out there in the world, or is that Joint Commission?
No. Their Joint Commission is a more of a regulatory group, but there is APIC.
Is it APEC?
APIC.
APIC.
And we had people from APIC attend OSAP. They were some of our invited guests.
Oh,
Yes.
that's nice.
One of the things I'd love to share with you all is one thing I love about dentistry is the collaboration that does go on with dentistry. And I talked about a little bit of the collaboration with Danby and the Dell Foundation. When I came into OSAP, my background was in dentistry, so I was well aware of all the different dental associations out there. But what I got real excited about is how OSAP collaborates with almost everybody, because every association during their annual conference, they usually have some training that has to do with infection control, right?
Mm-hmm.
So OSAP is working with them to make sure that the educators that they do bring in are OSAP members, have the proper training, or given the right information.
Qualified.
Right. So we're constantly communicating with all of those associations, and our members are writing in their journals and in their newsletters. We become the go-to. And I love that about dentistry, that we can all work together and help build up each other's associations. It's very exciting.
Because if you need it every year, you need to be at your state meetings.
Yes.
And we did have somebody that was complaining that there was some false information or misinformation that was out there and was written. And she was like, it's so infuriating because that's not keeping people safe.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's not keeping a patient healthy, and we're cross-contaminating and getting ourselves in trouble. And then we were already feared. We don't want to add another level of fear.
No, right.
In our dental visits and make patients afraid that they're going to get sick when they come to us.
No, we want to make patients realize that we're there to take care of them and make their lives better.
So anything else as we wrap up that you can think of that our listeners should know about?
Just that our next boot camp is going to be in January in Chicago. Registration is now open.
Oh, good. Break out that winter coat.
Yes. It will be nice. I guarantee you it will be nice and warm inside the Marriott. Yes. I guarantee that part. I can't guarantee coming from the airport to the hotel, but it will be warm on the inside. And the other thing is it's September. Dental Infection Control Awareness Month.
That's when you're hearing this. This whole is, you call it
DICAM. We want to take safety viral.
Oh,
yes.
It's like an oxymoron.
Isn't that clever? Which I thought of it, but I have to give my marketing team credit for that. Yes.
So what does that mean? Like, what can people follow or hashtag or be doing during Infection Control Month?
Well, we would ask, we're going to be sharing a lot of posts on our social media sites that they can go and share on theirs, because we want to continue just to educate everyone on infection control and patient safety. And we want to educate not only dental professionals, but the community as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can go to OSAP's Facebook page, our Instagram, our Twitter, LinkedIn, and you'll be able to share any of the information that we post.
Okay.
Please.
Yeah.
We want people talking about infection control in September.
I think it would be a really great idea for your office to post that on their own personal Facebook page to show their patients that they are participating, that, like you said, as you walk through, and don't ignore the sterilization.
Yes. Let your practice, your patients know that you practice the safest dental visit, that you're there to take care of them.
Awesome.
Yes.
So OSAP.org.
OSAP.org.
And it is a membership, but there is lots of things out there for the non-member. I love being a member because I get those info bites every week. They're great. And so they could check that out.
Yes.
And ask a question on Ask OSAP and attend the boot camp and annual session.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on and taking the time.
Thank you both for having me and helping us spread this message.
Nope, it matters. We're happy to do it. Well, you can obviously see why I am a big fan of OSAP. It's a secret that needs to get out there.
For sure.
People need to join. And go ahead and check out osap.org. They do have that Ask OSAP on there. I have actually sent them quite a few questions. I know you're all shocked by that. And we also want to thank PDT, Paradise Dental Technologies, for sponsoring the CE portion of this episode. We saw them again at ADA. They're just such fabulous human beings. They really are. And we also want to thank CE Zoom. And that's where you're going to get your CE credit. And be sure to go track your credits. You don't want to get audited. And it's so nice when it comes to that time to renew your license. You're like, oh, I haven't done that. Oh, I probably should get on top of it.
And CE Zoom also is going to be having a little snippet in our newsletter from now on. There's some interesting things that happen at the different state levels regarding your licensure. And so they're going to have a fun fact about some of the different states and some of the different rules and regulations that are kind of coming out. So if you haven't already, make sure you head over to our website and sign up for the newsletter so you can kind of see kind of the differences and maybe some oddities that are happening in some of our states as far as our license is concerned.
Yeah, and be sure to subscribe because there's some survey questions at the bottom. We want your feedback. We want to know what you guys want to hear more of, what you like or don't like. This podcast is for you guys. We selfishly started it so that we could get smarter, and we just wanted to share that with you, but really and truly, you guys are what keeps it going. So we want to hear from you. And don't forget to follow us on social media. Facebook, we are on LinkedIn as well, Instagram. We love the Instagram stories and we love your interaction there as well. And don't forget to share us. Please spread the word. This is how our profession gets better, by disseminating information to our colleagues and to our friends. This is what alleviates frustration when we are educated, and it's what breaks up the monotony. So spread the word, and we would appreciate any of your iTunes reviews or stars. That's how people find us. So go ahead and do that. And again, like he said, at taleoftwohygienists.com. You can also email us at michelle@taleoftwohygienists.com or Andrew @taleoftwohygienists.com. And we look forward to hearing from you guys. Anything else, Andrew?
Just making sure that you're staying tuned for next week. It'll be the third week of our infection control month, and it's going to be with Kim Loudenslager, who is one of my favorite hygienists out of Colorado, and she has a lot to share with us. So stay tuned for that.
All right, everybody have a great week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, y'all.